welcome to Edutainment for Us. So of course the rain's coming. Of late, rain starts so early, and by 3, exactly by 3, the sky is cloudy and the rains are coming down. So almost currently I can see a lot of wind, and it's almost going to pour. But before that happens, let me talk about today's vetting, or is it interview for Ida, Mama Ida, of course, Raila Odinga's widow now currently. So the mother to Winnie and Junior has come up today for an interview. She must have turned so ready. Remember, she was a teacher of English. Teachers who are always composed, ready, researching, if they mean it. Though they are very critical and they really need people to give them time to grow. But sometimes you will experience an environment that is actually very demoralizing, disorienting, defeating, and you may have to experience such things, but it is what it is. Now, Mama Ida is one of the people who is teaching us some lessons of life. Remember, because of Raila, she was actually removed from class unwillingly. And from her speeches, we have seen her sharing the kind of people she has been able to teach, because she was a teacher in Kenya High, among other schools. So she has been out for very long, but because of Raila's influence politically, she was still able to do some things here and there. Of course, if she was from another lower family, or if Raila did not stand out as he did, maybe she wouldn't have been heard anywhere. However, all along we have been seeing her carrying along the luggage of opposition with her husband. And therefore, when the husband died, she stood very firm. We saw controversial situations, such as when she decided to welcome anybody in the home. People like Kalonzo Musyoka actually carried their cows, took them there. We saw Eugene Wamalwa and Natembeya doing the same. And at the same time, hello, Mateo, welcome. It is coming to pour, and I'm trying to struggle and speak out there. But maybe at some point I'm going indoors so that I proceed. Thank you so much for showing up on my channel. I appreciate your presence. Watching itself is a great support, and I really appreciate, okay? So we are having rains that are actually creating a lot of problems, even with power. They are also, dissociating us from the nature that we need. So welcome and thank you so much. Yeah, so when we look at Mama Ida, actually she's a strong woman, if I can say that. Even though there have been controversial statements that came up recently, people bringing information such as kids maybe having been born elsewhere, those are not stories we can focus on because we don't have evidence about what happened. But I just want to play a video that shows her interview, and the interview is really outstanding. It's a lesson that can be very important for many of us. When we go for interviews, we need to prepare wholly. So Mama Ida went for an interview and she was quite set until everybody was just telling her appreciations, The panel forgot that they are supposed to ask her questions, and instead they began now to just praise her. So I'll be going to play that part, and it will be just running. And maybe I may not be commenting on that, but I'll allow you to drop your comments based on what you think was happening. We may take more minutes than you expect, but a maximum of 20 minutes, possibly. That's what this video will go for. So let me go inside and set the video. I may not be able to talk inside again because it's a public office, but I'll be playing that video so that you can just check on the points. Among the questions she was asked is her readiness to solve problems, and she said she will not be alone, she will have other people. She was again asked on what she will bring on board, and she said she has a vast skills from all over the place. Then there was the third situation where she was asked her net worth, and it has shocked many. She said that her net worth is 500 million. Imagine if 500 million, her as Ida, and save that from what Raila Odinga had, whatever she has interest in. So let's go indoors, and you will be watching that interview. I know there are some lessons all of us who keep going for interviews have to check on. Let's go inside, okay? Yeah. Hata kukali. Wewe ni mwalimu ufanisi. Hapa. Nakuaminia. Kuvuka mito.
You didn't get me. First of all, my apologies for coming late. I wanted to introduce myself after because I don't introduce myself briefly. As Suba people, we don't introduce ourselves briefly. My name is Millie Odhiambo Mabona, Member of Parliament, Suba North, and Minority Chief Whip, and member of this committee. Chair, as part of my introduction, I don't have any question, but I just want to say the reason I don't have any question is because in law, we say res ispa loquita. The facts speak for themselves. Honorable Ida Odinga, aka Mama, is overqualified for this position. And indeed, I just want to also congratulate, I don't think in this committee or in this parliament, we've ever seen this level of skill and, expertise. But also, I just want to say that I hope this is the first step of greater conferment in this country for what Mama Ida has done for this country. I think it's a good step, but only a good first step. We are hoping for greater, much greater things coming our way for what she has done. I don't think many people understand what Mama has done for this country, what she has been, what she goes through every election cycle, stoically, and also with calm, resilience. And if you see even from a photo gallery, she works with everyone. So she's an ambassador par excellence. She's one.
All right, guys. So, of course, Millie Odhiambo was the first to speak here. And instead of asking questions, she had just to acknowledge Mama Ida. And she was smiling, knowing that everything has smoothly flown, okay? So it was more of an acknowledgement than a moment of questioning. And of course, some of the committee members had to remind individuals to really remember that this was an interview. And if they wanted to do so, the congratulations would come maybe away from the interview. So let's get to the second person and just see
every government. Not questioning, not complaining. So she deserves. I have no question. And I wish you the best.
Those are your thoughts. I will allow any other member to ask question about Anne.
Maybe I would also first congratulate Mama on your appointment at this position. The other thing is that you came in very prepared, as local Kenyans would say, umetuzia uoga na tumenunua. By the way you presented yourself, tumenunua, and we really want to appreciate you and your appointment. But I just want to ask one question. That while you bring the extensive leadership experience, UNEP involves highly technical negotiations and can also respond to international scrutiny regarding environment governance and enforcement challenges at home. How will you rapidly build the technical expertise necessary for these specialized negotiations and at the same time project and defend Kenya's credibility as a responsible environmental steward on the global stage? And number two, I would want to ask how you intend to promote international cooperation on environmental issues, considering the Paris Agreement, which was a treaty aimed at mitigating climate change. Thank you.
It sounds like, and I have to caution members, it sounds like most of you are doing congratulations. This is a vetting exercise, and you will have an opportunity as a committee to do your congratulatory messages later if you do approve. For this point, let's restrict ourselves to the vetting process. As the question, Mama Ida can take any question. She's prepared, and well versed with all your questions. I think at this point, let's just focus on asking the questions that we can.
All right, guys. So, do you think possibly the members were intimidated the fact that Mama Ida was actually already appointed by the president? And away from that, maybe the fact that the choice itself went for the lady who had gone through a tough moment, possibly. Because Raila Odinga was one person who experienced a lot of, we can call it, the troubles he went through the whole 20 years plus. Or why is it that everybody had just to give an appraisal? Because when we look at the members of parliament, or rather the people who are questioning or doing the vetting process, this is not the first time they are doing the vetting for anybody. So they understand the vetting process is not supposed to be a congratulatory moment, but it's supposed to be a moment where you prepared yourself with questions. So why exactly are they just saying she came prepared and has sold fear to them? Because for whatever reasons, I believe an interview panel must have their own set of questions prepared early for the candidate. So why would they say they don't have questions, or just appraise and say they wish her the best? So did they fear to ask because it would sound maybe useless or worthless? Or what exactly did it mean that most of them, including Millie Ojambo, they were simply giving her congratulations and wishing her the best in the future moments in the job? So let's check on our further questions and see whether other questions will be said. And we'll be coming back to see how she really shared her, let's say, an autobiography to the group that made them not to really want to ask any questions. So that maybe we learn from that. What exactly should we do in interviews that will make people not to ask us questions?
To do. Honorable Yusuf.
Thank you, Chair. My question relates more to the place you would be going to represent us if we recommend and approve your nomination. And that's at the United Nations, one of the major United Nations branches or agencies. But as you know, the UN is facing a serious crisis at the moment. The Western countries, particularly the United States, which was the main anchor of the United Nations, is withdrawing. There are less resources, less support, particularly for climate change. And as a country which hosts the only United Nations agency dealing with environment in the global south, what actions would you take, and what kind of advocacy would you bring to your job to reverse this decline in the United Nations and to increase the resources for an agency like an important agency like the United Nations Environment Program?
Dr. you may respond to the questions. Some of those questions are almost similar. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Member, for asking that question. I believe I'm not going to work alone. I'll not be alone. I'll be accompanied with various groups, with different skills, various experts, like you, for example, who have worked with the United Nations for a long time. I hope with all these groups will come together to help, we work together to help in solving that particular problems. It is a problem that does not only face a country like Kenya, but it faces many countries, particularly in Africa. So I'm not worried about that, but I know that with the various disciplines that we have, we'll be able to solve that problem.
Question.
Yeah, congratulations, Mama, for the nomination. Now, you are transitioning into formal diplomacy. And you have basically been having a distinguished career in education, civil society, and private enterprise. And a number of public commentaries have questioned your readiness for the physical and technical demands for this role. What motivates you to take up this appointment at this stage? And how do you intend to demonstrate your professional,
Julia
intellectual,
says, welcome.
personal capacity required to discharge the demanding responsibilities of Kenya's permanent representative to UNEP? Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's a very interesting question because you've talked of the path that I've walked.
Julia, this is
all these
about
years.
the vetting
The common
process for
denominator there
Ida.
is leadership. And that leadership is
I'll
what
be
I
explaining
tend to
later,
bring
though I did at the
in this
introduction.
job. The areas where I've worked, those areas have equipped me with a lot of knowledge on how to handle issues. Sometimes they are almost the same because it will involve planning, it will involve executing, it will involve working the people who are knowledgeable in those areas, evaluating your work, and eventually seeing if you can meet the target, the goals that you targeted. I think my journey has prepared me well for this job.
Mi trabajo es fácil
Alright
porque uso
guys, so
Clica.
as the
Así es
commercial
como hago un
takes
seguimiento de
on,
todas mis tareas. Empiezo por...
let me talk about this because I started, maybe some people are not online yet, but those who are there like Matthew and others understood what is happening. So this is just a critical analysis of Ida Odinga's vetting and the process itself. The fact that she was appointed to be to represent Kenya in the position of an ambassador, kind of. So the vetting process is going on, but you realize that the committee members are not willing to really ask questions, and for those who are asking, they are not asking. Maybe if you look at other vetting processes we've seen earlier, you would see a clear difference between what's happening here. The people who are vetting are actually kind of shy. They are shying away from asking questions. And so we are checking into why would they be afraid of asking such questions. How prepared was she? Is she giving the very convenient answers? Are they intimidated because of the fact that she was already appointed by the president? And the fact that her family, actually, people felt like after the death of Raila Odinga, that family needed to be kind of praised. And in particular, the real exact family of Raila Odinga, the nuclear family. Because already Oburu Odinga took over ODM, but that was, if you look at the extension, we've had a lot of vloggers even indicating that Oburu has sold the house of the brother, referring to the party and all that. So we are just checking on that, Julio, and anybody else who has come in of late, but consider this. I hope you understand now. Thank you so much. You can share where you are from. You can also like the video and maybe subscribe if you've not done so. So let's check more. There was another question, a very tough one, which is more of economic personal, and let's see how she had to go about it.
Thank you very much. I have a set of statutory questions that I will ask you for purposes of record before I can give you space to give us your final remarks.
Thank you.
And number one is if you complied with the tax clearance. Kerry, is it a yes or no? Have you complied with the Kenya Revenue Authority for tax obligations?
Yes, Honorable Chair.
Compliance with the DCI, Director of Criminal Investigation for police clearance?
Yes.
Clearance with the Higher Education Laws Board, University of Nairobi, where you are.
I have.
Register of political parties, compliance with the register of political parties, clearance from EACC.
I have that too.
Have you ever been charged in a court of law or convicted? If yes, please provide further details. Have you ever been adversely mentioned in an investigatory or parliamentary report?
Not at all.
Do you hold dual citizenship, Mama Ida? Do you hold dual citizenship?
Yes, I do.
Are you a Kenyan or do you
No,
have
I'm a
another
Kenyan
nationality?
citizen.
You're
I
Kenyan.
don't have dual citizenship.
Okay. The very uncomfortable question I don't like asking, but I have to ask you. What is your net worth?
My net worth, Mr. Chairman, this is a very interesting question because there are things that belongs to me, Ida, and then there are things that belongs to the family, the Oginga family, for whom I also have interest. But my net worth is about 500 million.
Thank you. Finally, I'll give you another round to give your closing remarks. We will listen to you, we know you.
All right, guys. So just before we listen to our closing remarks, and we'll be going back to any other thing that she presented, we've got to understand that Ida shares that she has a net worth of 500 million, all right? And that is her as Ida. And that is away from what a Raila family has, because we know for them they are in billions. They are not just in millions. So now that Ida really runs private businesses, do you think this was an underestimation, or do we really believe that this was an exact figure that he gave? Was it a guess also? Most people are not very comfortable with sharing their net worth unless maybe they want to show that they have it so that they will not be indicated to have stolen. So when it comes to filing of even returns, most people don't declare everything in most situations because there is, it's not a very, friendly question. It's personal to some level. And we've seen most times some individuals underestimating, and in some situations, few overestimating their net worth because they understand maybe a way forward into this. So I don't know whether Ida really gave the exact figure when she says 500 million, that is her net worth, because when you look at the Oginga family and then you come to Raila himself, and we've heard about the businesses that they run. If the daughter runs this snail business, there and so many others, and into all this, then I'm not sure I would agree that her net worth is just 500 million Kenyan shillings. I'm not sure. So let's get to see how prepared she was, because we were shown a very big CV, but we can start with the closing remarks before we get to the other end. And maybe you can drop your comment based on what do you think she really was overqualified, as Mbona said, or is that an overestimation too?
But just to speak to these members as you conclude.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the questions you're asking me, first of all, about those compliance, I've compiled them here, and I would like to present them to you, so that
Sergeant or the clerk.
yeah, they are all there. The original plus the copies that you can look at. You can find that.
Proceed. Your last remarks.
I'm very happy to have been here. I'm very happy to have met the committee think most of them are people I've heard of, some I've seen, some I've talked to, and I look forward to working in this capacity for which I'm being interviewed. I believe I have what it takes, and I hope to get it. But thank you very much for being here to interview me, and I hope to see you again in future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mama Ida. This has been a nerving vetting exercise for me. First of all, because of the person that you are. You've done so much, like Honorable Millie did mention, to this country. And having you in front of us is extremely humbling. As a committee, we appreciate what you've done with this country, you and your family. And we continue to pray for you, even after the loss of Baba. We wish God's grace. And we thank you. I hope this committee considers your nomination favorable. Thank you very much, and we wish.
But this distinguished.
Guys, so let's go back to the very first part that Mbona and the rest feel like after the presentation, Mama Ida had shown herself as over-prepared, so that we see how brilliant one maybe can prepare for interviews. Who knows? So let's check on this.
I feel honored to appear before you this morning, and I thank you for taking time to consider my nomination for and the invitation to participate in this important vetting process for the Kenya Permanent Representative of the United Nations Environmental Program. First and foremost, I'm grateful to Almighty God, the God that has given me opportunity. He has been my source of and guide throughout my life. I thank His Excellency, the President, William Samoei Ruto, for the trust he has placed in me by nominating me to serve our nation in this important global diplomatic role. I'm also thankful to supporters and messages of goodwill, plus all the advice I've received from my friends, colleagues, and Kenyans since my nomination. I want to thank my family, particularly my children, one of whom is here today, Rosemary is here with me, whom I cherish and who are here with me to give me support to be with you today. I want to make special mention of my partner and my friend, my biggest supporter, my recently departed husband, Raila Amolo Odinga, with whom I was married for the last 22 years. He always encouraged me and supported me as I pursue my dreams. He was a constant, supportive pillar in my life, who immensely contributed to who I am today. May his soul rest in peace. I also acknowledge the many friends, colleagues, schoolmates, college mates, and all well-wishers, those who have worked with me over years, and thank you, those friends. In recognizing the many congratulatory messages from the people of goodwill around the world, I realized that this opportunity is not just recognition of me, but also a statement to the hopes and dreams of Kenyan and African women who have emerged as the central force in my social transformation. Honorable Chair, with your permission, allow me briefly to share my upbringing and background, which will help put into perspective the journey that has led me to this day. I was born in Kabarnet, in what was then Baringo district, at a very, very hostel where both my parents served. My father was a medical officer and my mother was a nurse. In fact, she's the first Africa-trained nurse in this country, Kenya. I lost my father at a tender age, and we were therefore raised by our mother, Mama Rosa Uyo. Though widowed early in life, my mother chose not to be defined by loss. She went on to live full, purposeful, and impeccable life, raising 6 children with unwavering strength and serving faithfully in the church in various capacities for many years. She handled her grief with much dignity, embodied resilience with grace, and instilled in values of honesty, work, fairness, accountability, and above all, the deep fear for God. Her life remains wellspring of strength and inspiration to me. As I navigate my own journey, which now includes widowhood, I draw courage from her example. Proof that even in face of profound loss, one can rise, rebuild, and live fully a meaningful life and serve others. I grew up in Game, in Siaya County, and in Migori, and I attended Ogande Girls High School in Homa Bay County. Later, I joined the Highland School in Eldoret for my A-levels before proceeding to the University of Nairobi for my Bachelor of Arts degree with education as option, specializing in geography, which exposed me to the environmental issues. After university, I taught geography and general paper at Highway Secondary School for 2 years, and later at Kenya High School for 13 years. I also served as an education officer with the Ministry of Education in Jogo House. However, even as I focus on my career, I realized that being the partner of then a political activist and someone who would later be recognized as the father of democracy in Kenya, it came with very heavy price to pay. This including sacrificing my teaching career and having to raise my family single-handedly as a young mother for a long period of time, particularly in a hostile political environment. Much about the public domain, much about it is in the public domain, so I don't want to dwell much about it. Honorable Chair and members, for most of my life, I have often found myself in peculiar spaces that needed bold voice, a voice to speak for those unable to speak for themselves, a voice of reason and reconciliation, during critical make or break moments in our nation and in our continent. And just like the biblical example of Queen Esther, who did not stay silent but spoke out when it mattered and saved the whole nation, my life and work have been deeply affected by issues that inflict vulnerable populations across the great continent. I have done my best to speak out for them, all the platforms that have presented themselves to me. Allow me, Mr. Chairman, to mention a few of them. I have dedicated my life to advocating for empowerment of women in leadership and in governance. I founded the League of Kenya Women Voters to advocate for women's rights and expand participation in governance, and together with other reform-minded groups, we contributed to the push for affirmative action, which culminated in the creation of 47 women representative seats under the 2010 Constitution. Today, I'm humbled to serve as patron of the G7 Women Governors Advisory Council, working to retain and increase the number of elected women governors. Globally, I have participated in the Commission of Status of Women held annually since the historic Beijing Conference in 1995. A forum review and evaluate the implementation and advancement of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. I have equally been passionate about girls' education because I firmly believe it is the most powerful investment we can make in our future, and through that, through Idle Dinga Trust, we champion initiatives such as Linda Kesho. This is a program which addresses the issues of teenage pregnancies and early marriages, and also in support of integrating the young mothers who had already left school to come back to school. I've had also been able to champion nutrition. In the year 2008 in New York, I hosted a high-level roundtable summit for First Ladies in Africa, effective solution and end maternal and child malnutrition, which led to the declaration to include nutrition as a global development agenda. I also spearheaded and launched the first African nutrition policy in Kigali, in Rwanda. I have been involved in several environmental, including collaborating with the late Noble Lorraine Wangari Maathai and her Green Belt movement, and advocacy for such as tree planting. As a managing director of East Africa Spectrum, an environmentally conscious clean energy company, I've championed the promotion, access to clean household energy solutions. Honorable Chair and members, how we manage or mismanage our environment will determine the quality of lives that we live. Through my work, I've seen devastating effects of environmental degradation especially on vulnerable people in our society. There is lack and clear link between environment and our actions. Honorable Chair and members, I believe that this is a critical moment when we are presented with an opportunity to shape our environmental future. And if approved by this esteemed committee, I intend to do my level best to help stop killing our planet. I will pursue every specific and set priorities. First, during the United Nations Environmental Assembly held last year, Kenya demonstrated leadership by sponsoring and guiding the passage of 3 significant solutions. These are: 1, promoting sustainability solutions through sports and resilient planet. Secondly, environmental sustainability of artificial intelligence systems. And third, environmental dimension of antimicrobial resistance. These are critical, and to ensure effective and efficient achievement, I intend to establish core structures, such as specialized working groups, bringing together multiple stakeholders to partner and to do the implementation. Secondly, under the leadership of His Excellency, the President, Kenya and Africa are emerging as the global leaders in climate action. The National Climate Change Action Plan of the year 2023 to 2027 seeks climatic positive growth by maximizing African energy potential, vast natural resources, and youthful workforce to drive this industrialization. I will be keen to advance this agenda, ensuring that Kenya and Africa interests are represented, and working together with other parties to see that the impact of these actions is not just high level, but reaching out the grassroots and impacting the constituency and most vulnerable population whose welfare have always worked to improve. Honorable Chair, in conclusion, allow me to reaffirm my deep conviction that the journey I have walked through service, leadership, advocacy has prepared me for this responsibility. Experience I've gained, the knowledge I've acquired, the skills I've sharpened, and above all, the passion and the inner resolve that guide me to have collectively sharpened by readiness to serve and champion the interests of our nation. Not only our nation, but also the region with utmost dedication and integrity. Service to one's country is the highest calling any patriot can answer. Each of you, honorable members, has answered that call to do your own service. And today, I'm equally prepared to answer that same call and committed to to safeguard the environment sustainability upon which the future depends. I sincerely thank you for the opportunity to appear before you this morning, and I hope my candidacy will meet your favor. Looking forward to having conversation. Thank you, and may God bless you.
All right, guys. So that was the long presentation by Ida Odinga to prove her brilliance as one who is going to serve in UNEP position comfortably and well. So looking at that presentation, of course, she has given her curriculum vitae, a whole booklet, guys. How big is your CV? Now looking at service itself, of course, from the teaching itself is just 13 years, and we understand she was pulled out of teaching not because of her desire, but the situation of political aggressiveness and hostility at that time. And later on, being, as she said, in the gather of a wife to a politician or a politically active individual, she was able to serve now in other situations. Now, if you talk about ordinary let's say ordinary standards, she wouldn't be who she is currently. But maybe looking at the recent coalition possibly brought this. So we've had all different feelings and thoughts about that coalition. But at the end of the day now, Ida possibly will go home in the end of her days, having served now in the UNEP position. And she's been able to go through many other global positions which nobody would go to. So the key lessons I learned from this is that everybody, at least, if they realize the potential, no matter the blockages and challenges, still there is an avenue at some point. And what it only calls is for vision and the situation of seeing opportunity where it comes, and also going for what they need. Because now you look at the position when she was given, many people said she shouldn't take it. There was a lot of controversy surrounding that, because looking at people currently, we have people who are very critical about this, and of course one of them is Malala. Remember, put in mind the play he's just written recently. And because of the assertiveness Mama Ida was trying to show after the fall of Raila, many people thought that she's trying to oppose maybe the government. She may not take that position. But Winnie was interviewed on JK Love and said there is no way her mother should reject because she deserves it. So do you also think she deserves this position? Of course, many people in the comment section say that it's a congratulation to her, and we should pray for her success, and that she has really shown her brilliance in the parliamentary committee, explaining the subject matter at hand, giving the background information, giving how much she served, the diversity of knowledge she's got, and she is set for the job. However, currently UN is facing a lot of challenges generally in Africa and some nations where they think they should not support. So of course she comes in at the moment when UN is not very strong, but I hope her agility will help to solve the matters at hand. So we end at this. Adios, and we'll be discussing more other aspects. Remember, our channel does a political analysis, political reaction commentaries, and we have now the section of lessons. Then we have the social reactions, where we get to talk about people and affairs that are. Recently we talked about Demo Facebook and what's surrounding her. We've talked about Obina, the situation of Nigerian guys like Mercy Johnsons and the rest of them. And we also talk a lot about Nyabohanse, one of the very dramatic villages in Kenya, and those surrounding that niche. So of course I understand that most of you are different. I have different audience from different levels, and you come by any moment. Of course you look at the alerts and come by to listen to this. Somebody was urging me to talk about Nigeria currently. I'll be checking on statistics about anything to do with what is going on. The last time I talked about Nigeria was early January, so I'll be checking on what is current, and maybe I'm planning to do something that will cut across Africa, because we dealt with Burkina Faso, we dealt with Cameroon at some point, Nigeria, then Sudan, Ethiopia. We also dealt with Senegal, Uganda, and South Africa at some point. Then I wanted to talk about Seychelles, but I've not yet got an opportunity to talk about that. So based on your comments, they helped me to know what to maybe handle. And then I got another person who asked me to talk about a text. I think I had done something on it. I'll be just checking to know which one particularly. Then I'll come here for discussion. And of course, those who are following on grade 10 content, I'm still on it and going on. So let's keep it real. We have to go on regardless. So thank you so much for always coming here and listening to our discussions. And you have a very vital role to drop comments on what you have to do, where we have to improve, and maybe new areas that we need to cover. Otherwise, adios till next time. Bye-bye.